everyone, welcome back to Kidding Around. My name is Melanie Smith and I am so happy that you are here with me today for another Wanderlust Wednesday. Today we have a fusion of cultures and we'll be traveling to 2 different places. Before we do that though, if you like what you're seeing here and want to follow along with all of our Kidding Around videos, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also below each video click the thumbs up. Of course, if you really like what you're seeing here and like the projects that we do, please make sure to share us with your friends. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are going to hop on a plane and we are headed to Yoro in Honduras. Honduras is in Central America and it is bordered by other countries, but also it is bordered by both the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. It's a beachy place and it is beautiful. Wouldn't you like to travel to Honduras? I'm sure that you can imagine playing on the beach in Honduras. Right now we are going to travel inland a bit though, and we are going to go to Yoro. So in Yoro there is a very strange phenomenon that happens at least once a year. People claim that fish actually fall from the sky just like the rain. What do you think? Do you think that's actually possible? It seems a little hard to believe, I think, though I think it would be very cool. But in the 1970s, National Geographic got a hold of this story and they sent a group of researchers to see if they could actually figure out how fish were falling from the sky, or if fish were falling from the sky. They wanted to get to the bottom of the story. So what they found was that after a big storm, there were lots and lots and lots of fish on the ground. You'll see that in some of these pictures. They never, though, observed them actually falling from the sky. So what people think is that fish live in the dark streams below the streets. Then, when heavy rainfall comes and fills the rivers, the fish swim to the surface and end up on the sidewalk. Of course, then once the rain stops, the fish are left on the ground and people coming out after the storm are left to think that the fish fell from the sky. No matter where the fish come from, the people of Yoro take full advantage of the fish on the ground and they see it as a reason to throw a party. So every year they throw a festival in the honor of the fish fall. So when I was thinking about fish falling to the ground, I thought of the famous Japanese fish kites. And I thought, no matter if they fly through the air in Yoro, they can definitely fly through the air in your house. So that leads us on our second trip today. We are going to head from Yoro to Japan. Japan is a nation of islands in Asia, and it is in the northern Pacific Ocean. So as I mentioned, Japan is made up of several islands. In fact, it is made up of over 6,800, that's 6,800 islands. It is a beautiful place and definitely one that is on my bucket list to travel to, just like Honduras. Here are a few pictures of Japan. Can't you imagine yourself traveling there? Well, if you travel to Japan in late April or early May, you might very well see lots and lots of fish kites. Those fish kites represent carp or koi fish, and as I mentioned, they are flown in April and May, and that's in honor of Children's Day, which takes place in early May. These fish kites are strongly associated with the Japanese culture. And you know, there's actually a story that goes back to the late 1200s that indicates that these fish kites were flown by the samurai warriors as they went into battle. Of course, they were flown in victory as well. So let's move on to our culture fusion today as we make these Japanese fish kites that will fly through the air and also represent the fish that rain down on the people of Yoro. To do this craft, you will need a few supplies. You will need a toilet paper tube. You can also cut down a paper towel tube. You'll need a pair of scissors. You'll need some yarn, a glue stick, some white glue, a hole punch, 2 popsicle sticks, some tissue paper in fun and bright celebratory colors, and 2 googly eyes. All right, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do today for our Japanese fish kite is that we are going to make this holder, the thing that you hold as you fly your fish through the air. The reason that we're going to do that is because we need to use some white glue, and that's going to take a little bit of time to dry. So the glue can be drying while we're crafting, and then hopefully they'll be ready at the same time. So the way to make your holder is to take one of your popsicle sticks and put some white glue in the middle. You can see that I'm not putting a ton of glue there. It doesn't need to be a lot, just enough to make sure that the two sticks stick. And then I'm going to take the other stick and place the middle of that stick right in that glue. Once you have that done, you can gently move it off to the side and you can continue on making your fish. All right, so the next thing that you need to do is you need to start making these fish scales. And the way that I did that was I cut a U shape out of several pieces of tissue paper. So let me show you the easiest way that I have found to cut tissue paper. I have to say in the past when I've cut it, it sometimes has been quite hard. But the best way that I have found is to line up all of the pieces of tissue paper that I want to cut, and then I'm going to cut them all together. So you can see here that I have yellow, orange, and purple, and I'll be making the scales out of these colors. But first, I am going to line them up, and then I am going to cut a long strip of all three of those colors together. And you know, I actually have more than one piece of each color. I think I have 2 pieces of purple, maybe 3 of the yellow. And the more pieces of tissue paper, as long as you can still cut them, the better. The easier it is to cut them. All right, so I'm going to cut this in half because that's probably all we need for the scales. We'll be using this piece later. But then what I'm basically going to do, here I'm going to put yellow on top so you can see my pencil marks better, is I am going to cut out a U shape of all 3 of these colors together. So just a U shape like that. You can draw it first if you would like to, or you can just cut it. So then you try to hold them together as much as possible, and then you cut them together. This way, you're not dealing with very flimsy paper as you're cutting. So I'll cut a few here. I actually have a few pre-cut, so I'll be using those as well. But let me just show you, I'm just cutting them all together, just like that. All right, so you would continue cutting, and then the best thing to do is to take them and separate them. This will make them so much easier to glue when you're ready to do that. You know, sometimes I put them in my hands and I just kind of shake them up. That kind of seems, or you can even kind of rub your hands together. That seems to kind of get them separated so that you can just grab one instead of grabbing all 3 when you're gluing. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So now that you have your scales cut, you are going to put them on your fish. We're going to start from the back of the fish and we're going to work forward with our scales. We'll get to these little streamers in a minute, but we are going to start gluing these scales on the back of the fish, and then we'll head forward. All right, so the best way that I have found to do this is to take some glue, so a glue stick, and apply it liberally. Put quite a bit of glue on one end of the toilet paper tube, and then you just start placing your scales. So you can do this however you want. If you want to put a row of purple or a row of one color and then add a row of another color, you can do that. If you want to make a pattern, you can do that. It's all up to you. But so I am going to just keep gluing around until I have all of the toilet paper tube on that row covered. And you can see this last one doesn't stick too well. So I'm going to just take my glue stick, run some glue underneath it, so that way it stays stuck. Once I have my first row, this is the back row, I'm going to then take some more glue and going right around this glue tube, right above where I put the first row of scales, I'm going to put another strip of glue stick glue. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to just continue placing my scales along this row of glue. If your glue dries before you get to it, no big deal. Just put some more glue on. You know, another thing that I had thought you might use here, and then you wouldn't have to worry about glue drying at all, would be a row of double-sided stick tape. You could just put some stick tape around there, and then you can just stick right into it. Okay, so then I have my second row done. And you notice that I kind of overlapped that first row with my second row. So I am going to continue doing this all the way to the top. I'm going to put a row of glue, and then I'll put my little scales in it, and then I'll overlap it. I'll put another row of glue, and I'll continue on until I have my entire cardboard tube covered. Okay, so I now have my fish completely covered. I'm just going back and touching up just a little bit on the scales because sometimes the glue doesn't quite catch if you've glued over some tissue paper. You know, I found out as I was going that it might be easier to put the tube down on the table as you go around. And I also found that using purple glue was quite a bit easier too than probably using white glue, because that showed me if my glue was still usable. If it wasn't purple anymore, it probably means that it doesn't have much stick in it. So then I knew to use my glue again before I put my tissue paper on it. All right, so once you have it this way, then you are going to take this other tissue paper that I set aside, and we're going to make the fringe coming out of the back of the fish. So to do that, you can draw your lines if you would like, or you can just cut it. But I am basically going to cut this in about half, and then I am going to cut 3 strips on each half. I'm not going to worry about this purple. In fact, I'm just going to cut it off. So I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut, again, all 3 papers together, or all 3 colors together, and I am just cutting strips there. And now I have 2 more cuts to make, 3 more strips. And this will make more than enough strips, but it's always nice to have a little bit of extra, right? Okay, so then, once I have this done, I am going to use white glue now, because it's a little bit hard to get this glue stick into the tube. So I'm going to use some white glue, and because we're just gluing tissue paper, it won't take very long to dry. So then I'm going to just put a dot of glue in. Here you can see. Let me show you. I'm going to put a dot of glue in, and then I will take my tissue paper and put it right on that dot of glue. And then I will continue on around using different colors of tissue paper. Again, this is really cool because you can do a pattern, you can do all one color. Your art, your decision. Isn't that great? But I'm just gluing and putting paper in, and gluing and putting paper in. So I'm finished with that now, and as you can see, I've got these streamers in the back of the fish. Okay, so now we are going to move on to making this an actual kite. So then we're going to take our hole punch and, you know, about that far in. What is that? That's less than 1 centimeter, but I am going to punch a hole. And then I'm going to come straight across the tube, and then I am going to punch a hole in the same place on the other side. So less than 1 centimeter in, just like that. Then I'm going to take some white yarn and cut it. And I am going to tie this onto my fish. So the best way that I have found to do this is to take the yarn, put it kind of inside the tube and then go to the outside through the hole. And then I'm going to tie it. So I cross my string and then I put that the end through that hole, and there is my first part of my knot. And then I'm going to do that same thing again just to make sure that it's not going to come undone. Then I'm going to cut the excess yarn off. Then I'm going to take the other end of my string and do the same thing. So it goes in the tube, it goes out of the tube through the hole. I'm going to tie it by making a loop, putting the end of the string through the loop, pulling it tight, and then doing it one more time. There we go. All right, so my fish is almost complete, but what is it missing? It's missing some eyes. So now I'm going to take my googly eyes, and like I've mentioned before, I keep all of the googly eyes that I've had from previous projects, so I've always got plentiful googly eyes. And then I'm going to glue them on. I'm also going to use white glue for this because the fact is that this toilet paper tube being round makes it a little bit harder for the glue to stick. So I'm going to take a googly eye, put some white glue on it, and then put it just right above, a little bit back, but right above the hole where I punched for the string. And then I'm going to take another googly eye and do this on the other side. If you don't have googly eyes, or the googly eyes that you have you don't feel are big enough for your fish, you can easily make these eyes with white and black paper. Okay, now is the time that we need to go to our stick, our holder, and then we can take the string and gently wrap it around the holder. And I haven't found any tried and true way to make this stay on. You can wrap it around the sticks. Just make sure that you get a cross. Make sure that you get a cross there in the middle, and it should stay on pretty well. But if it comes off, you can easily just put it back on, right? Hey everyone, I'm doing a quick drop in here because I realized that when I was editing this video that I somehow forgot to show you how to put the side fins on your fish. I mean, your fish definitely works without those side fins. This actually looks much more like a fish kite. So it's up to you. You could do it this way, or you can add the fins. I think either one will be great and beautiful, but I did want to show you how to do it in case you want to do it. So the way that I did this was I put a few pieces of tissue paper together, and then I drew something kind of like a quarter circle down there, and then I just kind of drew up and then back down. So it actually, to me, kind of looks like a wing, but that's okay. It's going to look like a fin when you put it on a fish. All right, so now I'm going to cut this out, and I'm cutting, again, several pieces of tissue paper together. I'm actually cutting, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 maybe. It makes it so much easier to cut. Definitely at least cut both of them together. That will make it easier than cutting one piece at a time. Okay, so now I have my fin, maybe. There we go. And then I am going to fold over just that little bit of an edge, just right there. You can see the fold because I want somewhere to glue. And then I'm going to be able to glue right along that piece that I just folded over. Whoops, oh my goodness. And then I am going to just stick the fin right there on the side of the fish. And then I'm going to do it one more time. And you can see this is almost the length of my fish. It's a little bit shorter. So if that helps you when you're drawing, just kind of think about the length of your toilet paper tube. But you know what? It can be smaller, it can be bigger, it will all be beautiful, I am sure. All right, there we go. Now my fish kite is complete. Or it could have been complete beforehand. It's again up to you. I would love to see your pictures, whether or not they have side fins. All right, see you soon, bye. And there we go. We have our Japanese fish kite that maybe will represent the fish that maybe rained down in Yoro Yoro. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this craft with me. I hope you've enjoyed traveling to these 2 different countries. I know that I have had a blast. If you like everything that we're doing here, please again make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And you know, speaking of Facebook, I would love to see pictures or videos of your fish flying through the air. Please ask an adult to post those on our Facebook site. Thank you so much for joining me on this Wanderlust Wednesday. Thanks so much for kidding around with me. I will see you next time.